Hi, I'm Stefan, and I like to draw. This is Stefan Dallas Draws. Subscribe here on YouTube or follow me on Instagram. In this video, let's talk about watercolor. Watercolor is now my all-time favorite medium, and it probably will be forever. I don't know why. Well, I know why. That's why we're making this video. So I was first really turned on to watercolor when I started watching artists on YouTube. It seemed like I found a cool little niche of creators and makers that were both traditionally trained and just amateurs, and they were all making really beautiful, awesome stuff that really intimidated me, having just graduated from art school and feeling kind of bleh about my portfolio and life in general. And in art school, I only took one watercolor class. It was my second semester, my first year, and I just did it to get it out of the way, really. It seemed like too advanced, too daunting, too expensive. Our teacher, luckily, she was really awesome and had us buy top-of-the-line supplies. And that is part of the reason I got back into watercolor, was because I had all these expensive supplies left over that I didn't know what to do with, and I couldn't fathom just letting $200 or $300 rot on a shelf. And I didn't think that there was really a market for used paint, so I wasn't going to sell it. So the summer after my senior year of college, I was in an internship working as an art director at an ad agency, and I needed to do something more creative than what I was doing at the agency. You'd think that my title is art director and I'm automatically like super creative all over the place, but really it wasn't filling that void for me. There was a lot of copy layout and selling stuff that I didn't necessarily believe in, and I just was really conflicted with that, and I also kind of felt like a sellout. That being said, being an art director really drains your creative batteries, so I had to find something that was accessible. And that was one thing that really drew me towards watercolor, is I could paint and draw in a way that felt right and felt like it got what I needed to get out of me, but also I could teach someone how to draw like this. I could tell my story practically and creatively in a way that didn't necessarily drain the batteries. Speaking of batteries, you don't have to worry about your watercolor palette losing power. It can be used in pretty much any climate as long as it's not too many degrees below freezing, and it's reactivated just by adding water. They dry out and then they can pretty much go anywhere. Not like a tube of oil paints or acrylics that can't be reactivated and get everywhere. And any of you saying, oh, what do you dip your brush in? Well, it's just water. You just put it in a bottle. Easy. Some people really want to be super abstract with watercolor, and they can do some really cool things. I chose not to do that. I'm really inspired by Japanese culture and manga, and in art school it was really hard to admit that. It seemed like everybody in an American art school wants you to really concentrate on being 100% unique and being so different than anything you've ever seen in your life, and that if you can't do that, you'll never sell a piece of work, and you'll never get into a gallery, and you'll never be a notable artist. And that just didn't stick with me well. So with watercolor, I could recreate a lot of the scenes from my childhood, a lot of the scenes that I witnessed today. I can paint cool buildings in urban settings, or I can paint cool characters in a fantastical place. I tend to kind of settle in between, and I just paint what I want, and that's really what everyone should be doing. I also have a ton of art books by Hayao Miyazaki, and if you look at a lot of his preliminary sketches and the way he preps for things and thinks about designing things, he's just so loose and sketchy, and he uses watercolor and pencil to do it. He doesn't even need like a hard black ink to get his story across. So watercolor as a medium inspires me to be bold, because once you make a colorful choice on that pure white paper, it's there forever. You can't really erase it, and if you white over it with white out, it's just painfully obvious that you're trying to correct something, and you just have to live with what you do, or go back to square one. And I think the more you participate in that cycle of destroying and recreating, the easier it is to move on with your life, Well, I hope you know why I chose watercolor as my go-to medium, and maybe you can do the same. Enjoy the rest of this time lapse. I'll see you at the end of the video. thanks again for tuning in. I'm sure that there's only like 30 or 40 people seeing this video, so it's really awesome that you stuck around this long. I've got just a few things to mention. So there are 2 pillars of content that will be on this channel, and a 3rd pillar coming shortly after that. The 2 main pillars are travel and my comic book. So after a few of my videos go by, you'll know that I'm a big fan of Japan and all the things going on there. And one of my first video projects is to travel to Shikoku. It's a southern island in Japan, and there are 88 temples from a pilgrimage called the Shikoku Henro Pilgrimage, and I want to visit all of these and document them and my experience on video, but also illustrated in a book. And I want to share the educational and cultural heritage of the island while also just making art like I like to do. The second pillar is also really near and dear to me, and this is a comic book that I've been working on for over 5 years. I've dipped my pen in the ink many times, and I've ripped everything up many times. The script is on its 6th or 7th revision. I've got hundreds and hundreds of pages planned. I could release it weekly for 7 or 8 years and it still wouldn't be done. But what I want to do is just record me inking the panels and just let you enjoy that journey with me. And you can either tune in day by day or find it on my Instagram or my personal website. And it'll just be a story that I tell for a long time. You should also know that the character that we painted in this painting is the Bunny King, the protagonist's enemy, so I guess that's the antagonist of the comic book, which is called The Bunny King. So look forward to more on that. In the distant future, there will be a 3rd pillar, and the 3rd pillar will be art education. I think it's the natural direction for any channel that has any sort of art component, because I'm going to assume that a majority of my audience wants to tell stories, wants to make really beautiful things, or just things that are important to them and feel authentic and awesome. And to help people do that will be really rewarding.